Welcome, and look, my job today, in a few simple hours, I want you to become obsessed with light, not obsessed with location. Now, I believe many of us, whenever we're starting out or inexperienced or we haven't been taught properly, what we do is when we go photograph, we say, there's a nice wall, let me photograph there. There's a nice fountain, let me shoot there. There's a nice building, let me shoot there. And we totally ignore the light. So what I'm going to do today is talk about the subtleties of light, the subtleties, and give you an idea of how to use many different light sources. Okay, we're going to discuss many. And not just the ice light. I don't want to make today just a glorified promotion for the ice light, although it will be. No, I'm joking. But we're going to end off talking about the ice light and showing you some different ways of using it. Quite simply, guys, I don't care what light you use. If it illuminates, you can use it. And here's the thing, we have this camera store full of gear that we can use, okay? And it can be quite exciting or scary at the same time because there's so many things to use. Now, based upon my experience, I'll tell you what I love to use and what I believe works for me. And perhaps if it resonates with you, then that might be good for you too. Ultimately, guys, my philosophy is there's no shortcuts to learning. There are no shortcuts. So I'm not going to sell you an action set. I'm not going to sell you filters to make an ordinary image look really, really good. Because I believe, well, in fact, let me ask you a question. What separates us, whether we're professionals, whether we're a serious amateur, what separates us from the person who happens to be holding a camera on the street? What do you think it is?
A higher likelihood of a good image.
A higher likelihood of a good image? Okay, yeah, definitely.
Consistency.
Consistency? Yeah, absolutely, yes.
The knowledge.
The knowledge? Absolutely, yeah.
Design, framing the image.
So it's composition and design, absolutely. There's all these different things, but I believe that, unfortunately, people don't respect photography as much as they should. And the reason being is everyone in the first world has the tool of our trade on their person. If you own a phone, you have a camera. And if you have a camera, a phone, you probably have the iPhone or the Samsung, and you have these apps that can make any image look pretty fun. True? Think of Instagram. I mean, I don't use the filters on Instagram because they make a really good image look very bad. You know what I mean? It's underexposed, it's 70s looking, it's got these weird sort of little textures and things like that. So I find that what will separate, say, you or us, either as professionals or serious amateurs or the serious hobbyists, is quite simply the fact that we know what we're doing. And technically, that is light. Technically, lighting is number one, not location. So, like I said, within a few hours, I want you to become obsessed with light. And please, if you have any questions, please ask them based upon what I'm showing. So, if you ask a question that doesn't pertain to what I'm showing, we're going to go on a tangent and we're going to get frustrated and it'll be a long day, okay? So, at the end of the day, we're going to have a general question and answer, and if you have anything you want to ask, please feel free and it'll be fantastic, okay? So we are going to discuss the following sources of light, okay? Pretty much everything you can imagine. We're going to show you a bit about sunlight, a bit about window light, open shade, using reflectors and translucent diffusers, artificial light, okay, man-made light, candlelight even, off-camera flash, on-camera flash, which people are normally very afraid of. I'm going to show you a technique today that you are going to freak out on how amazing it is, and you are going to love me forever unless you already do.
We do.
We're going to talk about video light, continuous fluorescent, backlight, and LED. Apart from showing you how to use the light sources around us, guys, I'm going to show you also how to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. Because there's a myth. The myth is that many people believe that you have to have a great location to get a great photograph. Okay, which I'm going to disprove very, very quickly. Other myths that I've heard, even said about my work, is, Jerry, you only get great shots because you only photograph beautiful people. Now that's true in one sense. I believe everyone's beautiful. If I'm photographing a girl or a guy who I dismiss as, let's say, overweight, ugly, and a big nose, how on earth am I going to make that person look and feel beautiful? Now that's a whole other seminar, but quite simply, that's what I'm saying is I believe your photography is a reflection of who you are. Okay, so who are you is the question. Now, I'll let you sleep on that thought, but in the meantime, how we turn the ordinary into the extraordinary is a very important thing. Okay, now let's look at this. Let's talk about sunlight. Who is afraid of sunlight here? I think you're all lying. Okay, let me ask you a different way. When you're going out to take photographs and it's sunny, do you head for the open shade? Okay, most of us do, perhaps, right? And perhaps before I go too much further, I would love to know who I'm talking to here. How many here are professionals? Who do this for a living, who make their main source of income photography? Okay, all right, fantastic. Who does it sort of on part-time, has a day job and does this as well? Okay, who's a serious amateur hobbyist? Okay, who just spends all the time here in B&H and buys things and because they can, because they're retired, they've got a corporate job and they've got all this money, don't know what to do with? Who has no money and is divorced and is on their wits' end and is no, I'm only joking. That's why you're happy, look at you. All right, divorce is a wonderful thing because we have 2 more chances at the wedding. Isn't that amazing? It's serious, it's crazy. All right. All right, sunlight. Let's talk about sunlight. Now, well, in fact, I'm going to tell you a basic sort of rule before we go through all these steps, okay, because it'll pertain to everything that I'm showing you. Most people, let's say, who perhaps are inexperienced or haven't been taught properly, whether it's a bride or a portrait of a girl or a guy, we walk them to the window and the window light is there. We turn their body towards the light source and we think that's the obvious way to illuminate someone because it's illuminating the front, and then we turn their face in and we're happy. The problem is if we turn a body to a light source, then we're broad lighting that person and we're showing less detail, less depth, less dimension and form. The golden rule, especially with the female form, is to turn the body away from the light source and turn the face back in. So, if that's the window, for example, I'll turn the body this way. Posing is another seminar altogether, but let's say we point the toe, we bend the knee and we shift the weight back and we turn the face this way. What happens is, I want you to turn the body to a point where the shadow starts to appear in the middle of the body. Okay, and if we turn the face back into the light, now we are shooting on the shadow side of the face. If we shoot on the shadow side of the face, it's often referred to as the narrow side or the short side, and it slims us. It's very slimming. So for the female form, usually, over 90% of the times that I'm photographing a female form, I turn the body away from the light and turn the face back in. Okay? For guys, you can do both, because guys, we want to look heavier, let's say, on the arms and the chest, because that's our form. For girls, it's curves. For guys, the chest and the shoulders define our shape, and that's why perhaps we can turn the body towards the light. And then if we turn the face back here and we still shoot on the shadow side, it's going to be very slimming for us as well. With the strength of that, let's go through a few images and then describe them to you as well. You see how we've turned the body away from the light and turned the face back in? Okay, so what we're happening here is we're having this beautiful shadow on the face, on the arms and the cleavage, an interesting crop as well for a bit of negative space, and that's how we achieve that shot. Now, like I said, we're showing you all these shots were taken in the sunlight, okay, in the sunlight. Now, you might ask, well, how do we get someone to look in the sun if that's where we want them to look, but they just can't handle it because they're squinting and they're doing all this kind of thing? Well, what I do is I get them to look at a certain spot and I say, okay, just close your eyes. On a count of 3, look at that spot again. 1, 2, 3, click. And they can do that all they want. All I need is a fraction of a second to capture that image, and that's how I got that particular shot. You have to tell people too not to anticipate the light, because some guys especially, they do this. You go 1, 2, 3. And they look a little bit nerdy. You don't want that. You know what I mean? So just totally relax the forehead, relax the brow, and that's how we got that shot. Now, as we saw again, we are shooting on the shadow side of the face, and that's very slimming. It gives us a lot of depth and dimension and so on. Okay, every so often, guys, I'm going to show you some empty environments like this, and I'm going to show you what I did with it. So to disprove the fact that people think that I only photograph in palaces and castles and all these amazing locations, which I don't. But I have the same challenges that anybody else has. Now let's have a look. We have this sunlight falling through this skylight over here. And what I do is I expose for the highlight. Now let me explain what that means. When I say expose for the highlight, it means I want detail in the brightest highlight in the face. In the film days, if you ever photographed in film, it was actually exposing for the shadows and we develop for the highlights. Now it's different. We expose for the highlights. Now with raw conversion, with all these different things, we can bring out this detail. Now I personally love a dramatic quality of light, so I don't mind having highlight and shadow or deep shadows. I have no problem with that whatsoever. So let's have a look at this shot. So what I do is, I bring a mirror from a different part of the room and I place it in the foreground. I place my camera in the way there, and with no Photoshop we get this image. Now you may ask, how did we get that? That was the bevel, the double bevel reflection, and that's how we got that image. Now you must know that what we see and what the camera sees are two different things. You're never going to beat God. You know what I mean? God gave us the best HDR, the best built-in raw conversion software in our eyes. We can see more detail in highlights and shadows than the camera does. So if you expose for highlight, then that's the kind of result you're going to get. Now just to clarify too, I have no problem with Photoshop. I have no problem with Photoshop. I do have a problem though when you're using Photoshop to correct and resurrect what you should have done in camera in the first place. I find too many of us, we use the easy way out. We shoot on program or aperture priority. We just wave the camera around, hope for the best, and then we fix it up afterwards. And I'm just saying is that, you know, wouldn't it be great to start off with an existing, very beautiful image? Okay, that's what it's all about for me. And we can polish it afterwards. Okay, using that same principle in theory, we had this piece of sunlight falling through a window just on this door. Now you think, well, big deal. There's no such thing, there's no great photograph here or potential. Well, what I do is I place my groom in the foreground there, and then I get that shot. Simply by just placing him in that line, and then of course we get this one here. I often talk, if I'm doing a longer class like a 5-day workshop or something like that, I talk about shooting for the wedding album or shooting for what you want to sell. So when I say shoot for the wedding album, I'm suggesting that you actually picture the photograph left and right. Finish the spread in the wedding album inside your head. Whether it's wedding, whether it's a portrait, whether it's boudoir, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you shoot to sell rather than just loosely shooting and hoping for the best afterwards. So I'm walking the streets with my bride here. I see this beautiful texture on the ground, highlight and shadow. So what do? I place the bride underneath and we get that shot. How many people here shoot weddings? How many people here just do portraits? How many people here just shoot pets? What else do you guys shoot? Commercial? Landscape?
Architecture.
Architecture?
Birds.
Yeah, birds.
I stage.
And what's that?
I stage my pictures.
You stage your pictures? What do you mean? In what, like, what's the genre?
I have a storyline, and then I find the people and the place,
Okay.
and I prompts, and, you know.
Okay, so you have a storyline and you find the props and you create. Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Guys, what I want you to know, just so you, if you've never photographed a wedding, if you can master a wedding, I believe you can master anything, because weddings, you're shooting portraits, fashion, commercial, boudoir, with time constraints, with weather constraints, the priest going off at you, the mother-in-law going off at you, this kid screaming, the weather is bad. No matter what happens, you have to get it right on that particular day. I believe if you want to get great at it, is if you can find someone that you respect and admire and assist them and hold their bags, I'm telling you it's the best learning curve you can possibly have. And arguably, it's amazing that I believe that wedding photography as well, you can garner quite a bit of money too, depending on where you are and depending on how you value yourself. But like I said, I believe it's a good thing. Now here we're going to be showing you lots of different things. Certainly weddings is my forte, but I do people, so portraits and fashion and stuff. Okay, so what do we see here? We see a dead vineyard where the bride and groom decided to get married at. Isn't that fantastic? Out of all the days to get married, they get married at a vineyard when it's the wrong season, but that's okay, Jerry's here. So what do? I look up at the sky and it's very hazy. So I want some drama in the sky. So what I do is I squint and I look at the sky, and what I do is I underexpose the sky by about 5 or 6 stops. Now, of course, this area is going to be pitch black, but what I do is I lie down on the ground, allow the light to filter through, and we get this shot a few moments later. And that's again with no Photoshop. Now, you know how tall he was? He was 7'2", and she was 5'2". It's crazy because there was a shot of the groom with the groomsman, and I called it evolution because there was a there was a groomsman like here, and it literally went up to like this. I'm 6'2", right? I'm pretty tall for a guy, but he was 7'2", and I was like jumping just to fix him. But anyway, posing, even posing. If I have some time later on today, I'll show you how to pose a tall guy and a shorter girl if you're interested. Okay. Okay, so I'm doing an engagement session, a couple portrait, and I'm at that location and I'm looking at that play of light on the wall. Now I'm thinking, you know what? I know that in a couple of hours when the sun's going down, this is going to be a lot more dramatic. So let me come back here in 2 hours. So I did the shoot, came back, and we got this shot. You see how beautiful light can be. You have to become obsessed with it if you want to be a great photographer. Now, I believe most of us would walk past this location and totally ignore it as a possible place for a photograph. All I need is a clean pocket of light to have my face and shoulders in. That's what I want. So what I do, I place my model in the way and we expose for her face and we get this image. It's funny, people say, oh, well, Jerry, you could take any shot of that girl and she'd look amazing. You know what? Have you ever seen a beautiful girl in bad light? In fact, I made an episode out of it from Seinfeld. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? The girl in bad light? It freaked me out. Like, he didn't go with her because she didn't look good in bad light. A beautiful girl in bad light is not so beautiful anymore. And later on today, when I show you my on-camera flash technique, I'm going to show you some bad lighting on a beautiful girl. And I'm sure I'll prove it to you. Okay? All right. Well, on a wedding day, this is what I do. I use the force when it comes to where I photograph. Now, you might say use the force. What does that mean? Well, I don't have all the locations planned in my mind. What I do is if I have the time between the church and the reception, what I'll do is I'll say to the limo driver, follow me. If I stop, you stop. If you stop, it means I want to photograph here and take all the bridal party out. So we stopped at this location. And the bride and groom were thinking, what on earth are we doing here? But now we had sunlight too, right? It was very harsh sunlight. I find this piece of red, and what I'm doing is the sunlight is like 12 o'clock. It's literally directly up high. What you need to do is to pose them in a way that takes advantage of that particular way. So we do this. You see that beautiful cheekbone and jawline, the shadow on her arm, the beautiful detail there. What we need to work out is, I find that most of our lighting situations, in any situation, most light is up above, isn't it? You think of artificial light like this, for example, it's up above. Now, you walk in the streets of New York. Where's the light? It's like a little strip softbox, isn't it? Most people, though, you know what they do? They don't tilt the chin up. The faces are there, and we photograph there. So I'm saying is you need to just bring the chin up a little bit. Now, I find the chin up a little bit is like, well, who does that in their normal life? But you know what people do in their normal life? They do this. We tilt, adds a bit of finesse. And tilting, like what would you do when you tilt the face? You could be kissing someone, you could be hugging someone, putting your chin on someone's shoulder. So I'm saying to you is if you're posing people, give them an excuse to be in a situation that forces their face towards the light and where you want them to be. And I'm giving you all these sort of ideas now, so I hope that helps you. So this day was very, very sunny. So what do? Okay, so I run for the shade, I take this image. But wait a second, it's sunny. I go to the bride, take her out into the sunlight, and we do this shot. Isn't that fun? So it looks like a tattoo, doesn't it? Like a tattoo or a lace sort of top or anything, something like that. What I'm saying is sometimes when you're afraid of something, you ignore the possibility of what it can actually be. But this is what I'm talking about. Like all these little different things can make a big difference. So with this theory, question?
What technical? You're shooting, you're exposing to the highlight, are you just all manual all the time?
So technical question, am I exposing for the highlight all the time? Am I shooting manual? I do shoot manual, that's my standard. I always shoot manual. I shoot raw. And you know what I'll do? In fact, can you remind me later on, I'm going to tell you how I expose and what my camera settings are and how I get to my exposure. If I talk about it now, I might go on a bit of a tangent, but I want to do it at the end. Is that okay? But please remind me because I think everyone's going to want to listen to that. Are you guys cool with that? Yeah. All right, fantastic. Because it takes about 10 minutes to explain properly. All right, fantastic. All right, so what do? I'm actually doing a workshop here, right? So my model comes out with this beautiful little headpiece and this little piece of lace on her hair. I'm thinking, you know what? It's very sunny. Let me get her to sit down and place the piece of lace on her hair in between the sun and her face. And then we get that beautiful shadow on her face. And I get this image.
Well, I I didn't understand that. What are you holding there?
So it's like a little headband with a piece of lace. So my model walked like she met me, and she had this little headband with a piece of lace on, a little lace bow. So what I did is, assuming you're the model, I took the actual headband off, and the sunlight caused a shadow
You had somebody else
illuminating
holding it.
through. Yeah, so if you go back here, you see,
Oh, I see.
you see?
Is it on the camera or somebody else holding
Oh,
it?
it's just somebody else is holding it. Yeah. So I was photographing I was doing a bit of a workshop in Paris. So I want to show you a couple of shots here taken here. Have a look. Now you might even ask, how on earth did I get that shot with a bird? Well, a little bit of luck, but it's also based on my technique, and let me explain. Most people who watch me shoot know that when I'm about to take a photograph, this eye opens. So I'm left eye dominant. So when I'm actually focusing on the camera, I'm doing this. Now, why I open up this eye is because if I see movement, I'm like, I might move the camera and say, well, that's more exciting than what I'm photographing. Like at a ceremony, for example, is a typical situation, for example, what I'm talking about. So I'm shooting something and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to rock. Oh, wait a second, there it is. So when I opened up my eye, I saw this bird flying in the frame. I'm like, all right, let me see if I can fluke it. So it was half luck and half the possibility of my eye opening up, and that's how that shot was taken. Or on the new Retina display, you press Command B and there's a bird that comes up. I'm joking.
Just curious, what's the shutter speed to get that?
Well, look, it was very sunny, so my exposure was, I think it was around about sort of 500 or something like that. These couple of shots were taken with a Phase 1 camera, so back then. So I shoot with Nikon now, but I've got a Phase 1 too, and that's there. All right, so hopefully that gives you a bit of confidence to actually photograph with sunlight. Like I said, what I want you to do is just remember, turn the body away from the light, turn the face back in. Use the light and sculpt the body and the face with it. Remember to close the eyes and open them up last minute and all these little different things. Question?
Yes, thanks. With these sunlights, do you have any fill light in any of these photos that you've shown us?
So with sunlight, do I have any fill light with any of these shots that we've actually shown here today? To be honest, no. There's nothing there. I love a dramatic quality of light, as in the contrast of light, so light and shade. So for me, I'm totally fine with that. If I'm shooting for competition, for example, if I'm entering for competition, you're going to want detail in shadows and detail in highlights. Now, we saw detail everywhere, no problem, but if you're doing something that's very dark and deep, like a shaft of light coming through a room and you're exposing for that, everything's pitch black, then it's up to your personal taste whether you want that or whether you want a little bit of detail. But that's where raw conversion comes in, and you can bring those shadows up as well. But those shots, absolutely not. There was just the one quality of light.
Do you use polarizer on your lens?
Do I ever use a polarizer? No, I haven't used a polarizer since the landscape days. I haven't done it for a while now. So yeah, I try to limit my gear as much as possible. I mean, I love gear, but it comes to a point where you buy stuff and it ends up going in the car and you don't bring it out again. That's who we are, isn't it? Ask yourself, like, how many times have you used, I don't know, the tilt shift lens? But you love it, you buy it, you use it once, and it's fun, and then you don't use it again. It's like ladies' shoes, you know, you buy it once, you wear it once, and I'm joking. All right, I'd rather wear beautiful shoes and hurt than look bad and be comfortable. That's all I'm saying. Open shade. Let's talk about open shade. Now, open shade is the shade of a building, shade of a tree. It just could be a very general pocket of shade where we can photograph in. Now, here's the problem. Many people think that open shade, or shooting in the clouds, for example, when the sun's behind the clouds, where the lighting is the same everywhere, as in, it's like one big softbox. You can shoot anywhere you want and it's the same. No, there is a quality of light that we have to recognize. And let me show you perhaps how we can recognize that. Well, here we have two shots. This is the spread of a wedding album. And here you can see how very subtly there's a shadow on the bottom part of their faces. Then I made them laugh, and all of a sudden we have this beautiful glow of light in her face. What did we say? We said, if there's two buildings around or there's trees or whatever, usually the lighting is coming from up top, which means that we have to bring the face up. What we're talking about here, guys, is that the difference between highlight and shadow is not so great. Okay, the exposure difference between the highlight and shadow is not so great, but it is still there. It is still there. So what I'm saying is that what I like to do is I do not take a shot unless I get that beautiful depth and dimension. Unless, of course, I'm not in control of that situation. I'm not going to pose a bride during the ceremony, of course. You know what I mean? Although I've been known to do that. All right. Okay, so it's raining. So what do we do? Most of us, I think, will just run for the cover. But what I do, I see as an opportunity. I have the bride. I place her in the back seat of the car. And now, if you've ever tried to photograph through a glass, it's a problem because you're getting the reflection of the sky behind, you're getting the reflection of power lines, ugly things in the background. So what I do is I have my assistant hold a big overcoat in the way so I can shoot cleanly through it. What's a really good other way of doing it is getting like a black umbrella, opening the black umbrella and doing this, or the black side of a reflector and place it in the reflective way. The same way is how I would photograph people with glasses. So if I was photographing, let's say, the father of the bride with glasses and we had a reflection here, there's two ways I can get rid of that reflection. Either bring the arms up so that the glass tilts down, or put a piece of black reflector, a big overcoat, in the way of the glass. Does that make any sense? So for example, if you're photographing someone with glasses and I've got the glasses here, then you've got to know that there's some little piece, a little patch where it's reflecting off. So get your black reflector, get a groomsman's jacket, and then just place it in the way, and then you get a clean view.
What
Yeah.
about the flash? Sometimes you get the reflection from the flashback.
The reflection of the flash, well, that's why you never shoot flash straight on, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. Yeah. Okay, let's look at this again, guys. So what we have is the bride in the back seat of the vehicle. It's open shade, okay, but we still get that beautiful contrast of shadow. Now I want you to look at my arm here. My arm here represents the back, you guys call it windshield, right? Yeah, we call it, I forget. We call it windscreen. Sorry, thank you. I forget. I got to speak Australian. I just came from Europe and Romania and all these different things. So anyway, okay, so this is the windshield and this is the bride's face. Okay, what happens is I don't focus on the bride's eyes. I focus on the water droplets above her eyes. This part of the glass goes out of focus this way. This part of the glass goes out of focus that way, giving me like an in-camera tilt-shift lens effect. Does that make sense?
I didn't understand that last sentence.
So you know what a tilt-shift lens is?
I don't.
How it's a tilt-shift lens basically just angles the focal plane of the lens so you can adjust it so you can change perspective and or have just one part of the image completely sharp and the rest all fades away a certain way.
So what part did you said on the drops, not on her?
So I focus on the water droplets, not on her eyes. Focusing on her eyes would have been the obvious thing to do. I think the mystery behind this image is beautiful. I mean, she looks amazing out of focus. Isn't that funny? You look amazing out of focus. But yeah, you know, it's fun.
Are you ever afraid of your equipment out in the rain?
Am I ever afraid of my equipment out in the rain?
Getting wet?
Not really. I have an assistant with an umbrella, and we're always there. And if it, you know, I have my camera gear insured, so if anything happens to it, there's no problem. But you know, you just make sure someone's with you and all that kind of thing. So yeah, you'll be fine. I was.
You shoot several of your frames have been out of focus, and I think that is such a powerful way of shooting.
Yeah, look, I have a very low tolerance for lack of sharpness, in the sense that if I want to focus on the person, if that closest eyeball to the camera is not in focus, I delete it. I have very low tolerance. If it's deliberate like this, it's totally fine. But for me, if it's just slightly out, I can't, my heart hurts a little bit. What most people do, you know what they do if it's out of focus? They make it black and white, add some noise, add some vignette, and make it black and white, and it's art. But I can't do that. All right, I was doing a workshop recently in London, and it was overcast. Now I just wanted to show you something here. Do you see how I brought her chin up and tilted her face, causing a shadow on this side of the face? Okay, so that's what we do. And you see that beautiful depth of shadow just there. It's just so beautiful, that shadow there as well. For me, I live for that shadow. In fact, the lighting is not the beautiful bit, it's the shadow. It's the subtraction of light, which is the most beautiful part of the image, I believe. Okay, now I'm going to show you a piece of video footage here, and that is of that theory of turning the body away from the light and turning the face back in, of a typical traditional bridal portrait full length. Have a look.
This way, that's it. Come a few steps this way.
That's it, beautiful. In your left hand only, just like that. And this hand just hold there and just bend that a little bit. Beautiful. Now, I want you to point that toe towards me and bend it in. That's a bit more. That's it, and shift your weight back. So all your weight's on your back leg. That's beautiful. And now turn your face that way. A bit more. And chin up. It's gorgeous. See what happens when we turn the body away from the light and turn the face back in? We get that beautiful shadow on the side of her face, like I said, often referred to as the short side or the narrow side. We also have a shadow on the arms, the cleavage, and the beautiful detail, and we expose for the highlight, as in we want detail in the brightest highlight in the face. And that's how we get those shots. Okay, you pretty cool with all that? Question?
I think you shot that with a tripod?
No, I didn't. No, that was handheld, yeah.
What do you look at as your metering thing? The bride's highlighter of the face, and that's your meter reading?
So what do I look at when it comes to meter reading? What I do is I use matrix metering or evaluative metering for Canon users. So what I do is I evaluate the whole area, and then I predict what the camera's going to do, and I adjust accordingly. Later on, I'm going to walk through that very, very carefully to really give you an idea of how I expose. I'll give you a lot of confidence, I assure you. So window light, let's talk about window light. Now window light is my favorite quality of light. Why? Because it can be manipulated in many different ways. It can be broader, it can be softer, it can be sharper, it can be beautiful. So let me show you a few different shots with window light. In fact, if I could carry a window light with me everywhere, it'd be fantastic, but I don't think I'll get the same kind of light. So this was just simply shooting against a window, and this was a sheer blind at a hotel with two open windows on the side. And isn't it fun to just get a different perspective of a typical cliche shot that is not so typical? And again, we turn the body away from the light so we get that beautiful texture and detail as well. Now you might say, what shot could I take here? It's a pretty boring location. In fact, I had two friends of mine from Canada, and I was visiting Toronto, or Vancouver it was, and they met me at the hotel, and I said, I want to photograph right here. And they said, okay, we trust you, nervously. And I positioned them in front of the window, and I exposed for them, and then what happens is all the light bled out, and I got no detail in that window whatsoever, and we got this shot. So light was reflecting in the room, of course, but that's how we got that shot. Now, again, I'm going to talk about exposure later on and give you an idea of how we can achieve that. If you try this kind of shot to make a window, let's say like a high-key white backdrop, or emulate that, it's not going to work if direct sunlight's coming through, because what happens is the sunlight will bleed into the skin and just make everyone look like aliens, which will look really, really weird. Okay, trust me, I've tried it and it didn't work. All right, so. In case you're interested, guys, the presentation today is going to be put on YouTube on the B&H channel. So if you're interested in watching this again and learning from this again, it'll be on the channel as well. So no problem at all. Okay. So why is a shot of the back of a bride's head quite exciting to watch? It's a back of a bride's head, for goodness sake. Why I believe this is beautiful? Well, yes, the detail is fun, but I believe it's a shadow detail. The shadow, and the eyelash, and of course the composition.
Yes, the empty space adds to the impact.
Creates a bit of interest, doesn't it?
And it also is black and white.
Yeah. But it's that cleanness of that clean contrast of everything. Now, I took a shot here of the groomsmen, traditional full length, from the front view, of course. Now, I took this shot just to show you a different perspective. What I did with this next image is I lowered my camera angle. I turned my orientation to horizontal. I turned my white balance to tungsten, which turns daylight into blue. And moments later, I get this image.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing just what different perspective can do and a different white balance can do? Have you guys ever watched the TV show MacGyver? Now, I don't know about you guys, I was obsessed with him. I was obsessed with the TV show. So I grew up with him. I don't know about you, but you know. And no joke, I got into photography as I started watching MacGyver. And I said to myself, if MacGyver was a photographer, what would he do? And you know what? It makes you think differently. I believe creativity is a mindset. Creativity is a mindset. In other words, if you go out to do a shoot, whatever it is that you do, and you think average, you think cliche, you think pose number 23, model number 47, location number 21, what will you get? You'll get the same stuff that you did last week. Now, do you know what the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So when it comes to creativity, certainly we have a formula to things. We certainly have different things that we do. I'm suggesting, though, go out there and practice and have your mindset and say, today, I'm going to do something that I've never done before. Or, if MacGyver was here and he was a photographer, what would he do? Okay, it makes you think differently. Okay, so what do we have here? A typical setting, there's a sofa, there's a window, pretty boring. And I've got to photograph the bride with her bridesmaids. So I bring the sofa out towards the window light a bit more, and I pose the bride one by one, and then we get that shot. Just simple posing and obviously manipulating the light the way we want it. Remember, this is a window. This is a window light. At the start of my career, I used to walk into a room and I just used the light that was there. As in, if there was a window open or blinds open, there was soft light, whatever, I would do it. Now I subtract the light. I turn off the lights, I close the blinds, and then one by one I turn the lights on to see what I can get. Okay, it was really dark. This was in Sweden a couple months ago, and I'm actually photographing here. There was hardly any light at all. And what I do is I grab my model really close to the window. I use my 105 macro lens, and we get this image. Have a look. Isn't it fun for a different perspective? Just fun to sort of do something a little bit different. Look how beautiful her eye looks. It's gorgeous. Funny story, I was about 5 or 6 years ago, I was obsessed with this boutique in LA. You know the Ivy? Have you ever heard of the Ivy with the white picket fence where all the Hollywood stars go to have dinner and lunch and things like that? I don't know if you see that kind of stuff. But anyway, I was like, next door to this place was this beautiful boutique. And I thought, I'd love to photograph this stuff. And this was a Monday morning or Monday afternoon, and I was traveling to Vegas for the big WPPI convention. I don't know if you know about it. It's a big convention, happens every year in Vegas. So what I do is, I walk in, I present myself, and I'd say, I'm a photographer from Australia. My name is Ghionis. I would love to photograph your stuff. What do you say? And she says, well, you know, we get this request all the time. I said, look, here's my website. Here's my cell. Give me a call if you're interested. By the way, I have to shoot tomorrow. And I'm like, it's not going to happen, right? Sure enough, I get a call from the owner. Literally a couple hours later, said, yes, we're good to go, 100%, I love your work, it's amazing, let's do a shoot tomorrow. I said, fantastic. This is Monday night, and I had no model. I forgot that I needed a model. It's LA, how hard can it be, finding a beautiful woman in LA? So I just walked down the street. I walked into a makeup store, and I said, hey, my name is Jerry Ghionis, I'm a photographer from Australia, I'm doing a shoot down the road at Les Habitudes, the place is called. Is there anyone here who would like to model for me? And then she goes, oh, I've got a friend who's a model. She used to work here and now she quit. And I said, here's my cell. Call her to call me and hopefully we can have some fun. Sure enough, I get a call an hour later and she goes, we're ready to rock. So this whole shoot was born from on a whim. And this is one of the shots that we took. Now, the light that we had here was all it was a simple skylight. That was all we had. And I found all these beautiful little props and everything like that. This is like worth 20 grand, 40 grand. And I'm like, can you just give that to me? You know? And then the sales assistant was walking around. I said, you would be perfect in Jean Paul Gaultier, get dressed, and let's pretend like you're a princess and she's a seamstress. And all of a sudden this whole thing was created. And that's that. Recently I had the pleasure of going back there like 5 years later and to do another fashion shoot. Now I could easily do the exact same thing again. I thought, let me challenge myself to do something different. I walk in there and I say to the owner, we've got good news and bad news. He says, well, what's the bad news? I said, the bad news is you're going to have to undress all the mannequins and bring them here right now. The good news is it'll be amazing. He goes, okay. So that was part of it. There's a lot more to the shoot, but it'll give you an idea of one of my favourites of that particular time. Any questions at all about window light or using light coming through a... Steve Gosling, so shooting mannequins? You know, I have never seen it, to be honest. One thing that bores me a little bit, they can't talk back. Yeah. So the question was, how close do I put the model close to the window or not, if I have a choice? Well, it really depends on the quality of light. I can't really answer that question, I guess, because it'll change quite dramatically, but I'd say on average, usually, if this is the window and the light's filtering beautifully, they're going to be about where I'm standing. And that's pretty much it. But always look at the quality of light. Don't give yourself an absolute answer that catches everything. It's never going to work, because you have to problem solve this. That's what I believe like a wedding is, or photography is. It's just one big problem. Don't you think? We problem solve everything. Everything's a problem. Question?
When you have harsh light, do you believe in what's your philosophy as far as using a scrim or a diffuser?
Diffuser for the actual, for the in between the light source and the actual subject? Well, it depends on the subject. So just to repeat that question here, what was the, do I believe in using a scrim or a diffuser when it comes to harsh sunlight or whatever it may be? Again, depending on what I'm doing. I guess like earlier today, I showed you the sunlight without any kind of diffuser. Very shortly, I'm going to show you diffusers and when it may be appropriate to use. But probably a general answer to that question would be maybe when the person has bad skin is when I'll use a diffuser. It softens everything. An older face, like let's say wrinkles and parents of the bride or groom or anything like that. I have a bride that I'm going to show you in a moment. She's 65 years of age and she looks amazing with the sunlight and a diffuser because it softens everything. So yeah. All right, let's look at reflectors, guys. Reflectors. Who has a reflector? Who never really brings it out and leaves it in the car or just... Now I'm telling you, for the first few years of my career, I had one because every photographer has one. And then you go out on location and you just don't bring it out. And you think, well, you know, it's a reflector, we have one, but what do we do with it? Well, after this presentation, I'm sure you're going to bring it with you everywhere, okay? So, I go to this location. This is a spot that we have a beautiful location as in a nice colourful background, but bad light. Well, what do? Is I have my couple, I pose them in the way. I actually, you know how we said turn the body away from the light source? Either do that or turn the light away from the body. And that's how we get that shot. You see how I've created that depth and dimension because the reflector is about here and we get that shadow, beautiful shadow on his face, on the dress, and we get that very dramatic sort of fashionable sort of shadow behind the wall behind them there. If I did not want that shadow, I'd bring them a little bit further away, I'd crop them out, and that's basically it. But I actually personally like it.
How large was the reflector?
This reflector, you know, you're actually going to see it right now. Have a look. It's a big one. I don't know how big it is. It's probably about up to here for me. Yeah, that's the one where you don't want to look really foolish. You know how you have to hold it and you got to go, you know. Alrighty, so what I do here is the sunlight on the reflector, back on the couple inside the vehicle, and we get this image. Again, do you see the difference here, the shadow and the highlight in the face? You might say, well, a bride or a potential portrait client or boudoir client does not know the difference between good and bad light. I agree with you, but they do know what they like. Are you telling me that a photographer who's inexperienced with bad light here and a photographer who's experienced with great light over here, they will not get more work? Come on. You might say, well, I just shoot loosely and fix it in Photoshop. You do that while I play tennis with my wife. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on what you want to do, Xbox, whatever. And of course, we have 2 shots taken in that environment there as well. Now, how about just using an ordinary sign as a background? Now, what I do is I find this real estate sign, and I get a piece of light with a reflector back on the actual girl, and then we get this image. I mean, you wouldn't know where that was shot, would you? Like I'm saying is, if you were forced to use the situation around you, you would. But often we take the easy way out. The easy way out. Okay, question?
Is that the silver side you're using?
I normally use the silver side. Silver side. I used to use the gold side, but the color temperature is all over the place. On African American skin, the gold side is great. It's got that beautiful syrupy quality of skin tone is beautiful. On white skin, it looks horrible. So yeah, depending on how it works. Generally, I always have it on the black and silver side, and then I unzip it. For those of you who don't know, I use a 5-in-1 reflector. So you've got silver on one side, black on the other. You unzip it, turn it inside out, you've got gold and you've got white. And that's how we do it. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a beautiful girl in bad light. She's not so pretty anymore, is she? Then we turn the reflector towards her. She can't handle it because the sunlight's there. We get her to close her eyes on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, we open. And that was just taken with a single reflector. Isn't that crazy? You see how we've turned her body away from the light, turned her face back in. That shadow on her shoulder, and the dress, beautiful. Are you obsessed with light yet is the question. If not, like I said, I've got a bit more to go. I'm going to get you there. Okay, now you might think, well, what on earth are you showing me now? Because this is a pretty boring spot. Well, what I do is I'm walking on the streets here and I find, I don't even know what this is. It's a bush, tree, whatever. We get a reflector, we place it back into the girl. I use my 85-1.4 lens, 1.4, and then we get that shot. The 85mm lens, of course, the eyes are in focus. Then we get that beautiful softness of the foliage there in the foreground. That's how we get that image. You'll be holding your reflectors now, won't you? Sometimes when I have no reflector, I'll use people. If you can, hire a really large assistant with a white shirt. Yeah, just... It's a joke, but if it works. I remember I had a wall of bridesmaids with a cinnamon-coloured dress, and they were standing there, and I got them to sort of do this, and all of a sudden this beautiful glow happened with all these people. It was beautiful. I don't care what it is, it just, as long as it works. So here we have the reflector back on the groom. We get the light in the back of his head, and then all of a sudden we get like this studio-looking portrait outdoors with no Photoshop. And the bokeh effect. I love saying bokeh effect. I could say that all the day long. Bokeh effect. That was the 85-1.4. Yep. Okay, so now what's the light source here? The light source is the sunlight reflecting off his cap, off that little bit of a rim of white on his cap. All of a sudden, we've got this beautiful glow on his face. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And the sunlight's hitting the back of his head. It's giving us the hair light and the kicker. And all that beautiful rim is separating him from the background. I lower my camera angle and I crop up nice and tight so I eliminate all the dog walkers and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden we get this shot. Here's another shot from Sweden. And now I want you to do this for me. Bring it right out. Hands right out, right wide, beautiful. Bring your elbows closer and I want to see your fingers and then just bend your wrists. Beautiful. Just make sure that when you lose it, you just sort of put it away and then get it back in again. Yep. Right there. Thank you, sweetie. Now very gently, bring your right hand up. Yep, bring it up to your face. Gorgeous. Tilt. Bring your elbow out a bit more. That's it. Relax your fingers and up a little bit high. There we go, just there. Eyes at me, very playful, giggling, loving me. Quality of light. It's crazy, you know. Often, like I said, we ignore the sunlight, we ignore the reflector, and we're missing opportunities like this. How about we talk about diffusers? Okay, diffusers. This can be your best friend. If someone has bad skin or wrinkly skin or anything like that, this could be the best way you can use this, this instrument here. So this image, I was actually photographing a fashion shoot and I ended up going in the backyard of the designer's place, much to her horror. And I said, don't worry, let me just do one shot. If you're happy with it, we'll keep on going. I find this, this piece of lace, I don't even know what it was there for. It was like a screen of some description. Anyway, I just found it resting up against the fence. I placed it over her face. She couldn't handle the sunlight because it was just too harsh. Then I placed the diffuser over her, and then we take this image. And the cool thing is the diffuser is reflecting almost perfectly in her pupil, so it's giving this iridescence in her eye. There's another word that I wanted to use in a sentence today. I love iridescence. I love that. My wife is obsessed with grammar and words, so she subscribes to Grammar Girl. So every day she gets this like different, and it's really boring. It's crazy, but she loves it. You have to love her for everything she is, not who you want her to be. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's have a look. Okay, so we have sunlight illuminating the couple. So I get the diffuser over her. I soften and mesh the light in, and that's in fact what a diffuser does. It meshes light in. It meshes the light between the highlight and contrast, and all of a sudden we get this beautiful softness on her face, that beautiful quality of light on her face there. Okay, this next image, 65-year-old bride, gorgeous woman. She comes to me, and I'm not going to really compromise my style for the sake of her being a little bit older than my couples that I normally photograph. So what I do is I place her out in the sun. And of course, that's a bit of a no-no when it comes to maybe some, weathered skin and so on. But you put the diffuser, and all of a sudden, she'll look absolutely beautiful. And she has good genes as well, but there it is. Then sometimes we find a diffuser in our natural environment, as in you just walk around. For example, this is a perfect diffuser. If there was sunlight coming through the window here, this would be perfect. And have a look at this video. So you may notice a couple of things here. Obviously, one is you might say, how did I get the reflection? Always remember, the closer you go to a reflective surface, the more vivid the reflection. In other words, if this is reflective, if my lens was here, it'll be a lot more vivid than it is actually here. Most of us see a reflection and we go, okay, great, let's shoot this way. But go nice and close to it and you get that. Alrighty, artificial light. Artificial light, man-made light, okay? Now, this next shot's probably difficult to explain, but I'll do my very, very best, okay? Now, I walked into this beautiful, it was like a homestead mansion type of place where the reception was. And I saw this dresser, these drawers, and a reflective glass top, and then a mirror next to it. So what I do is, so let's say you're the camera and I'm the couple. Then we have this, so we have the drawers here and a mirror here. So if I place my lens just on the tip of the glass, what's better than one bride and groom?
Two.
4.
How'd you do that again? That is a wow.
So that's actually them. That light illuminated them. This is a dresser that stops here. I put my 14mm lens here. The mirror was directly behind that reflective surface, so I get 3 reflections of the actual couple. Look at my beautiful location that I have to work with for the groom's home. So I walk in, okay, I see that. What do? I close the blinds, turn off the lights, I take this table away, get the groom to sit down, turn the lamp on, walk up the stairs and shoot down, I get this. You think someone standing next to me with an iPhone would have gotten that? Speaking of iPhones, it's funny, for many years now I've been entering into competition. And this year at WPPI, and for those of you who don't know, it's sort of like the largest organisation, photographers all over the world, that happens every year in Vegas. And 15,000 photographers get together. It's quite amazing. And they have an annual competition. So this year I decided to enter a wedding photographed purely on the iPhone without telling anybody. Now, certainly the bride and groom, the groom was actually a friend of mine, so I asked his permission, of course. Can you imagine? I said, do you mind if every time I see a nice shot that might go in a wedding album, I'm going to duplicate the shot with an iPhone. So the whole day with a big camera, and all of a sudden I get can you imagine how, tap. The ceremony was crazy because I had this big, the big Nikon D3S, the big long lens, and shooting away, and all of a sudden just, because you can't zoom it, right? And the quality's bad, so you have to walk really close. So, and I even had someone come up to the couple and saying, "Oh, you really splurged on your photographer today, didn't you?" But what I did this with an effort to, I guess, to explain and to show my future students that yes, camera gear is important, but it's not going to mean the difference between a good and a great shot. So I entered this album into the competition, and no one knew, the judges did not have an idea that it was actually taken with the iPhone, and it ended up scoring an 86, and it got an unofficial 4th place. And it was fantastic. So now I have this as a permanent sort of display that I can show my my future students and everything as well. I'm very proud to say as well, though, that I ended up winning the competition this year for the 8th time in 10 years. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. But yeah, that iPhone one, it was fun. If you want to see it, it's or some images from it, it's jerrygionisblog.com. So go to jerrygionisblog.com and you'll find it.
What's it called?
So I'm walking past the actual city streets and I'm seeing this window display. Now, what do you do with it? Well, I have my bride and groom nice and close, and I isolate the particular red color, and I do this image. How beautiful would that be to finish off like a wedding album and extend the black like all the way across 2 pages? Wouldn't that be fun?
And how do you expose for this?
How do I expose for that? Again, I'll talk to that in a minute. Yeah. I promise you, I will not leave until I talk about exposure. I was walking around Melbourne, and I saw this beautiful sculpture. It's very abstract. Now, when you think abstract, you don't have the couple looking in the camera smiling. It's not going to work. They need to be abstract as well. One of the very few times in my career where I've actually photographed with a tripod, apart from my early RB67 days, camera and a tripod, I got the couple drifting in the frame, and I get this image. How about using an ordinary downlight and we get this image? The biggest problem that I see with what most people do wrong in this kind of a shot is they'll have the bride underneath the light and just bring her face up and she's standing perfectly straight. There's no form, there's no curves, there's no nothing, and she looks like a soldier about to get shot. Okay? So what I'm suggesting is, one thing, a tilt of her face just looks nice. There's a bit of finesse there. And also the problem is if she has a healthy bust line, the light will hit the bust and the bust will cause a shadow on the rest of the body. So what I did with this girl is I brought her body out a bit. So, and then pointed her toe, bent her knee. Please don't photograph that and put it on Twitter. All right, let me show you this next shot. Have a look. Okay, so how did I get that shot? Let me explain it. What I do is I expose for the background first and arguably just slightly underexpose it. Remember, if you want your attention to go on the subject, you must have the background a little bit darker than the foreground. So what I do is I get that beautiful quality of light. So before I even take a shot of the couple at all, I focus on the chair closest to me. So then I bring the camera up to the lights and then I shoot them out of focus. Okay, so I know the quality of light that I want. So now I have the background that I want. Then what I do is I have my off-camera TTL flash using the Pocket Wizards, and then I do that shot, and that was TTL. So now let me explain a couple of things where people go wrong doing this kind of shot that's backlit. Well, let's say you have the bride and groom facing each other, and then you're the actual photographer, and then the backlight, the flash is here. Now, the problem occurs when you're too close to the subject and or too low. If you're too close, then one, you may see the flash. Two, the light might be too bright or just in a small little pocket. If it's too low, there's ugly shadows that cause on the face, which we don't want. So my suggestion, about 6 feet away, okay, about 6 feet away from the couple or the person you're shooting, and then the light has to be as high up as humanly possible. What you don't know is the flash is literally behind the groom, okay, where I can't see them. Now, if you want more light on the bride, this is what you do. Let's say this is the groom, okay, and this is the bride. And what do I say? You want more light on the bride? Let's say you want more light. This is the bride, this is the groom. If you want more light on the bride, what I suggest you do is bring the groom slightly closer to the camera. What's going to happen is the flash will bounce off the actual, off the groom and come back on the face. Now, here's the deal. Make sure that you have a good depth of field to have them both in focus, because if you focus at 1.2 or 2.8, they look disjointed. Okay, so in other words, they want to be both in focus, where the illusion is that they're both in focus and they're looking directly at each other's lips or something like that, but there's more light on one person than the other. Here, they're perfectly centered, so we get that beautiful rim, that beautiful glow, the negative space, and there it is.
How many shots did you take of that until you got it that way?
I think it was one. I think it was one or two, yeah. Yeah. How many shots did I take to get that shot? Was one or two, just to repeat that. Yep.
When you said 6 feet apart, did you mean the flash and the couple or the couple and the camera?
Okay, so pardon me, let me clarify that. So did I mean 6 feet away, the flash be 6 feet away from the couple, or actually from where you photograph them? It's actually the flash be 6 feet behind the couple, and then you can be wherever you want for your perspective. Yeah. Alrighty, question, sir?
And you said that was TTL?
That was TTL, I believe. Yeah, TTL, I think. I can't remember. Sometimes I flick to the manual Pocket Wizards if they're not as reliable sometimes, so yeah. All right, let's play with candlelight now. Candlelight. Who's ever shot with candlelight very deliberately? Okay. You know what, it's fun. It is a quality of light. Here's where we go wrong with candlelight, is when it's too low. When it's too low, it's really ugly. It's like Blair Witch. Have you seen the Blair Witch? Like, oh my God. You don't want that. So unless you want to make someone look sinister, and unless it's guys. Guys, it's different. It can be more dramatic. For girls, it's very unflattering especially. Let me show you one of my favorite shots taken with candlelight.
And the candles are on the table and they're looking down at the table?
No, well, they are what they are. You can see what they're doing. The candles are all here. Obviously, I cropped the candles out. You have to remove context to improve mystery. If you knew the quality of light, then it'd just remove the mystery. So now you might say, how on earth did I get all those amazing expressions? I asked for them. So I set them up and I said, I want you to do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. On the count of 3, go. Now, the speed of my direction caused confusion, which made it look real. Does that make any sense? Because if they were like, you know what I mean? But so I make it fast, and all of a sudden it works. All right, let me show you this next image. This next image was taken in Rome. This is the biggest wedding that I've ever done in my life. This is a 5-day wedding. Every lunch, every dinner was a different host, different thing happening, a lot of pressure. And it was one of those gigs that you sort of, a once in a lifetime opportunity. And let me show you a shot and I'll talk about it. Huge halogen lamp that exists on the actual open field that's illuminating the actual building and that statue. Then I thought to myself, well, wouldn't it be fun to get this beautiful romantic look and feel with the candlelight? So I bring these candles here. Now, the reason why this works, because they're leaning towards the candles, which illuminates them properly rather than having shadows. Then, you know, we pose them a little bit, a bit of an angle to create a bit of interest. Someone standing next to me was smoking a cigarette, and I thought, perfect. I want you to go right behind the couple and smoke. All right, and there's a shot. In fact, B&H now selling cigarettes. It's no, I'm joking. I'm just joking. Question.
Yeah, how did you deal with the color balance on this? You had the halogen light.
So we have the mixed lighting, which I love in this case, because it gives you a contrast and it creates that beauty. So what I did was I put my white balance on tungsten, which corrected most of the yellow, but made the daylight halogen lamp even bluer, which gives them that dramatic kind of contrast.
Yet the statue isn't blue.
Because the lighting on that arguably was another light or something like that that was probably more corrected, because you've got the halogen lamp hitting it, but then there's another light hitting it as well.
Okay.
And that's how it works. Now, this next shot that I'm about to show you, this made me $2,000. Big enlargement, a spread in the wedding album. So if you don't do it because you love it, do it for the money. It was worth it, wasn't it? Now, you might say, what are all these lights going on? That was the designer, like the coordinator that made all this fancy stuff on the walls and all this projection. But I wanted to show a disheveled background, as in we had an amazing party and celebration, But then here we have this this beautiful moment between a couple where it's just about them. This is the final image in their wedding album.
Is that candles on the table there again?
Yeah, yep, that's candles.
I'm surprised Chippy and they didn't buy the photo.
We're hooking him up with a big album and all that kind of thing, so. Off-camera flash. Who's happy to use an off-camera flash? Everyone loves that? Yeah? Well, let me give you a few ideas. The wedding was in a marquee in the backyard of the bride's parents' home. So the saxophone player comes out and everyone's freaking out about the saxophone player. And I'm like, okay, wouldn't it be fun to take a shot with the saxophone player? I walk outside, this is like midnight, just before the wedding had ended, and all these bugs and dust particles were hitting my face in that thin, crisp, clean country air. And I'm like, I have an idea. I got the flash behind the bride and the groom, I had the saxophone player playing, and we got this shot. So B&H as well are now starting to sell bugs and dust particles from Australia. And you too can. And then another wedding, it was pouring down with rain. It was pouring down. So I said to the couple, I said, I've got good news and bad news. And they said, what's the bad news? You want to get soaked right now. And what's the good news? You're going to get an amazing photograph out of it. I said, okay. So we did. And I swear to God, that was straight out of camera. Yep.
So your assistant has an umbrella over their head with the flash in the back?
No, the assistant can't have an umbrella because we would see a silhouette or the darkness of the umbrella there as well. So they both have an umbrella first. I get my exposure right, then we check out the umbrellas, and then all of a sudden we get that shot. So I have my flash on a wide setting, not on a zoom, to get the full length. That was a long focal length, like a 200mm lens. Me way back, and that's how we got that shot. The beautiful glow between them. I love how you can see the water droplets above her face because the light's behind him. The light travels through their faces, and that's how we see a few droplets over there as well. Isn't that fun?
And you're hidden under the canopy, right?
I'm perfect. I'm dry, no problem. It's all good with me.
Is his face lit by the reflection from her face?
Yes, it's bouncing off each other. That's how that's working.
About what shutter speed?
So about what shutter speed? That was about 125. Yeah, 125, about 2.8, 1600 ISO. I exposed for the ambience here of boats in the background, and then we got that. You know what the key to this is? Practice. So many years I've been doing this, and I've even had someone say to me in a recent seminar, Jerry, how do we get as good as you without really practicing? Well, I don't know what to say to that. I didn't want to be rude. I'm like, it's like saying, how do I get muscles without training? I'm just saying is that no matter what you do, no matter what style of photography that you're doing, you need to practice, but not on a paying gig. Whether you know what I mean? Like we as wedding photographers, let's say half of us here are wedding photographers, can you imagine we only practice what we do for a living on a paying wedding day? It's ridiculous. So practice when the pressure is off you. You've all seen the movie the Karate Kid, right? Wax on, wax off. Yeah. Practice, repetition, experience is your best teacher, not an action set. No piece of gear here will make it right for you. Okay. All right. I was doing a workshop in London, and this was a Tower Bridge, and it was raining, as it does in London. So what do? I look at the sky, it's dramatic, I want it more dramatic. So what do is I underexpose the sky. In other words, I put the camera to the sky, I work out my exposure to underexpose it to get a beautiful dramatic scape. Then I lie down on the ground at the foot of the puddle. I have an off-camera flash here, and I get this image.
Wow.
That's not Photoshop?
No.
Is there a plug in there?
Where is the flash?
So the flash is here. The sky is, I underexpose it to get the drama in the sky. And doing that, I get a little hint of highlight in the Tower Bridge, and of course shadow here. I lie at the foot of the puddle and I crop out where it stops, and all of a sudden we get a pretty cool image out of something pretty ordinary. Question?
How high is the flash?
The flash is normally a bit above the person on a bit of an angle. So it's around about over here, about this height. Yep.
Is that just hard, bare flash?
It's bare flash. Yep. I don't practice safe flash.
What lens are you using there?
So, I'm sorry. you have no idea how hard it is for me right now.
What is the lens that you use there?
The lens is now back then I was shooting with Canon, that was a 17 to 40 mil. 17 to 40 mil. Now my favorite lens in the Nikon system is a not my favorite lens, my favorite wide angle lens is a 14 to 24. Beautiful lens, beautiful lens.
How come you switched?
How come I switched from Canon to Nikon? Well, I was doing a fashion shoot and I used two 5D Mark IIs, and in the process of shooting I dropped one of the cameras. I didn't drop it, I put it on the ledge and the car was coming, I was about to get run over, I jumped the fence and my foot hit the camera and it dropped and it cracked. No big deal, I was insured, all that kind of thing, so I needed a second camera. So what I did was, I'm like, now thankfully about a year before that I'd won the competition in Europe, a European Photographer of the Year thing, and they gave me a Nikon D3S as a prize. And I was sitting in a box doing nothing for a year. So I'm like, let me bring it out and play with it. I'm like, wow, these high ISOs are amazing. The speed of focus was amazing. And the focus points were accurate. Those three things made me convert. This is in Greece, and I'm photographing the couple. I've got the flash over here. Nothing that exciting, nothing that terribly amazing in this shot. So I got the exposure that I saw with my own two eyes. I added the actual flash in, and that's what I got. Now this cute little street vendor, this little kid with an accordion, was just walking up the beach playing for money. And the Greeks were quick to push him away, and I was quick to bring him back, and I said, here's 10 euro, stay there and play. So he does. The sun comes out, and we get this image.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We actually are selling that little boy today. I'm joking. We only have one. Alrighty. So then we take this shot. This is another couple in Greece. Nothing that exciting, backlit with flash, great, beautiful color in the sky. Then I thought to myself, what would MacGyver do? So I got two guys to stand on either side and to hold a handful of sand. And I said, on the count of three, I want you to throw the sand up in the air. So 1, 2, 3, we throw. Isn't that crazy? Just one simple little change in the shot can do that. Now, at the start of this presentation today, I showed you a slideshow of a wedding that I shot in Miami, and everyone asked me about those images at the end. Let me show you a video footage, and let me explain how I got these shots. So how did I get that in camera? And it was pitch black. I could hardly see where I was walking. The only reason why you saw the video there is because we had to bump up the contrast in editing to see it. So I walked to the beach. I'm like, the couple want a shot at the beach, and I see nothing. I see dead people. No, I look up at the sky, and it's very dark. So I literally expose for the sky. And what do? I get a bluey green sky. Now I don't want a bluey green sky. I want a burnt orange sky, a beautiful warmth. So I changed my white balance to shade at nighttime. Now this is a second exposure. I don't need a tripod because blurry clouds look beautiful. I need a flash to freeze the motion of the couple. Now let me tell you something else that I'm doing here. If I'm here with a wide angle lens on the ground and your couple are like this, do you notice how I get them to lean forward to correct my perspective? Because if you shoot it with a wide angle lens and people stand straight, they look distorted, look a bit weird. And one of my pet hates is having a head or a body part in the corner of a wide angle lens, like a head goes off like into nowhere, or a bride's like this and her foot looks like Bigfoot and her other foot looks fine. Like, you got to be careful with that stuff. So I crop the awkwardness out. I get that beautiful burnt orange sky. The flash freezes them. This is the cool thing. The shadow is cause of the umbrella because that was the original position of the umbrella during the exposure. The flash freezes the motion of the actual umbrella, but that was the original position, you see? And that's how we got that shot. Question?
You changed the white balance to get the sky right, but how did the couple get the right color?
So I changed the white balance to make the sky burnt orange, but how does a couple look like that? Well, two things. One is that they're not perfectly white. There is a warm tone there. And a bit of color correction in Photoshop, but mostly I actually love using flash with shade or cloudy because it actually looks beautifully warm. If you shoot flash with your flash white balance, it's cool, it's cold, it looks a bit, you know, it's not the kind of thing that I like to do personally. Let me show you another piece of video footage now from that same shoot. Have a look. So the wind was blowing and it was just amazing. It was this beautiful magic in the air. I can't explain it. Have you ever been on fire, as in metaphorically, photographically speaking, where you feel like there's something magic? It was one of those days, and we took that shot. Then I look at her hand, and I'm like, man, I've seen that hand before. It reminded me of Michelangelo's creation of Adam in the Sistine Chapel. Now, if I got the groom to do this, it would be a little bit cheesy, a little bit tacky. Okay, so I wanted to pay homage to Michelangelo without going too far, and I think we did well. So I gave him an excuse to put his hand there as if he was about to hold her hand, and then that's how we get the reference. Okay, so you'll notice we notice a question here.
Yeah.
Question.
Your assistant was holding what as so it looked like a modeling light?
It was just a flashlight so I could focus, and the flashlight had to be off when I took the shot because otherwise the ambience would have affected the exposure.
So you used a flashlight to focus?
Yeah, a normal flashlight to focus, and then an actual flash unit, a speed light to actually illuminate the couple.
Why not just shoot with the flashlight on? Why use the flash?
Because it was off camera, so I didn't get that the red infrared sort of thing to focus on. Yep. Now I have the ice light, I'll be using the ice light to do that. All right, have a look at this next shot. Hey Jess, try bouncing it towards you, or close your eyes and bounce it off your face. I know that sounds stupid, but it might work. Close your eyes. Sit up straight, darling, guys. For some reason, the TTL wasn't communicating correctly and the flash was too powerful. I wanted to underexpose St. Peter's there because all these people are in the way, so I wanted to underexpose it, get a semi-silhouette bit of drama in the sky and get a hint of the vehicle. So the only thing I could think of to lower the power of the flash, after using the obvious things to do it, was to turn the flash towards her and then bounce it off her face, and that's how we got that. So I was doing an engagement session here in New York, and the groom actually manages buildings, and I said, do you have access to a rooftop? And he goes, absolutely. I said, let's go up. So we took the shot and others, and it got dark very, very quickly. So I thought, what do? I have no tripod, but I have off-camera flash. But I can't handhold for a second to get the ambience of the beautiful skyline. Well, let me not even try. Let me deliberately move it so it looks like it was done on purpose rather than a mistake. So I expose for the background. Let's say it's, I don't know, 2.8 at a second exposure at, say, 2000 ISO. So there's my exposure. Then what I do is I have my, I focus on the couple and I do this, click. Click with an off-camera flash over here and we get this. I zoomed the flash head so that I get a pocket of light rather than it be too flooded. Otherwise I would have got where they're sitting and standing and so on. But that's how I get that shot. Okay, the dreaded on-camera flash. Come on, admit it, who's scared of on-camera flash? Or who does not like the results they get with on-camera flash? Okay, pretty much most of us. I am going to show you a technique right now which you are going to love me forever for, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
But some of you might be saying to me, well, wait a second, Jerry, I don't need flash. With the high ISOs and my 1.2 lens or 1.4 lens, it's okay. I can do anything with no flash. And your shots may look like this. This was taken at a wedding, and the best that I could do with no flash was this kind of quality of light. But I'm going to show you a technique that gets you this quality of light on camera. Okay? Now, let me show you a few different ways of bouncing the flash, because you know that I'm alluding to the fact that we have to bounce the flash. Okay, the question is, where do we bounce it and how do we bounce it? Now, does anyone have a camera with them? If you put a camera together for me and a flash on your camera, would that be okay?
I left my flash at
Does anyone have yeah? Yeah, can you put your camera together, put the flash on there and I'll...
Here's the on-camera flash.
Oh, no, I need it. When I say on camera, I'm in a speed light. Yeah, I'm in a speed light. I've got one, but I couldn't be bothered taking it out. I'll do it in a minute when we shoot with the models. Yeah, just pop it on. I just want to show you the orientation now of what I'm doing. Okay, perfect. Ew, Canon. No. I'm not, this is not going to be a war between Ken and Nikon, don't worry about it. Okay, so this next image, there's a beautiful girl in bad light. Okay, full flash, boof. Shame on you if you do that right now. Okay, that's like that. So I'm going to point to you as if you're the model and I'm here, okay? This image is tilting up 45 degrees. And by the way, this is all TTL. This is not meant to be fancy, okay? Don't think I'm going to win an award with this. This is just a technique, okay? That's like this. That is like this. That is tilting up with a card out like that, okay? That is tilting up with a card out at 90 degrees, which most people do that, wouldn't you say? Okay, you're going to change your mind after you see what I'm going to do. This is tilting up, angle right, 45 degrees. Mate, you need some WD-40 here, man. Either that or you just bought it. Okay, all right. That's about like that. Okay? That is like this. Okay? This is tilting back 45 degrees, like that. Okay, behind you. Okay, this is how I do it. Now, let me explain it, because I know you have a few questions, but let me explain the theory. Okay? Now, please don't go to your next shoot and always do it to the right. Okay? Let me explain. Now, we're looking at her right now, and that looks like no flash, wouldn't you agree? What I've done is I've created the shadow side. I've created the narrow side of the short side. So the theory is, I'm going to tell you the difficult way, and I'll tell you the easy way of remembering it. Okay? Ignore what I'm about to tell you, but it's more technical. What I need to do is illuminate the side of the face that's furthest away from the camera. I need to illuminate the side of the face that's furthest away from the camera, which is her left side. Or, quite simply, point the flash where her face is pointing. So, if her face, think of the nose as an arrow. If the nose is like that, I'm going to do this, down, and like that. Okay? That's how I got that shot. Why? Bounce, hit, shadow. If I shot vertically with this shot, this is what I would do. You see? If her face was this way, I would do that.
What are you bouncing off?
I'm bouncing off a wall, bouncing off, yeah. And this could be, this is no joke. Even the wall, the very, very back wall, I've been in reception venues where I've bounced off a wall like that. TTL, I might add +1 on the flash and the power, and I get that same result. Watch what happens if you bounce the wrong way. Beautiful girl with bad light. You see?
So, tell me again where you're standing for that shot. Where are you?
So I'm basically right here, okay? And this is a horizontal image. It's down and 90 degrees to the right. Now, you might say, Jerry, okay, what happens if they're perfectly straight on? Well, if they're perfectly straight on, this is what I would do. So your face is now this way, right? Which means I do that. You could be the father of the bride. Your face is this way. Guess what I do? I do this. Then you're the mother of the bride, and I want to shoot vertically, and your face is biased that way. So what I do is I bounce. This will satisfy almost 90% of your on-camera flash, especially when you're indoors. Obviously, if you're outdoors, it's not going to bounce off anything. I could be outside bouncing off a building with the exact same theory. Outside bouncing off a building with the exact same theory, and that's how I get that. You want to compare the difference between an amateur and a professional? Now, I haven't photoshopped anything or anything like that straight from the camera. I did that example only a week or so ago, but you get the idea. You telling me that a bride is not the difference between that and that? She doesn't know how she got there or how it works, but she just cares what she likes.
How do you deal with groups? Because this would work great for an individual, but if you've got 5 people and they're all looking in different directions, because you don't want them all looking in the same direction, they're going to look like a flock of birds. So.
Well, now this is what I would do. If I had, let's say, a family came up to me during the reception and said, "Hey, I want a shot of us with a family." I'll get them all close together. I'll slightly bias them this way. Then I would turn my flash in this direction, go bang bang. This is the thing. More than 5 or 6 people, it's going to be a problem. Quite simply because you're going to cause a shadow on her, causing a shadow on her, and so on. This is where I might maybe go back and this way. I'm saying to you, this is not going to satisfy every possible scenario. It'll satisfy 80–90% of things indoors. Trust me, you try this and you'll think, oh my God, I can't believe I was so close to this technique and I didn't know it. I'm telling you, professionals in the industry for 20 years don't know this technique, and it's so close. Once you get it, you've got it for life. Question?
How do you handle like a dark wall or a dark church? Same, you just...
So if you're photographing, let's say in a dark, in a dark room, what do you do? Okay, so I was at a reception venue. It was pitch black. One of those cool, funky types, right? Black ceiling, black curtains, black everything. The only thing that was white was the bridal table. What I did was, I positioned myself where there's a bit of ambience, like a chandelier, something to break up the background. I exposed to that first. Let's say it was 1600 ISO at 125 at 2.8. Then I come right close to the table. I turn my flash over here. I bounce it off the bridal table. That becomes my light source, and I got a soft, even light. Or a big plus-size student, an assistant with a white shirt with a back, or reflector.
I think like a church, you might not have an option.
Yeah, and in most churches, I will photograph without flash. The only flash that I normally use at a church is with them walking down the aisle and walking back of the aisle. The rest, I quite like the ambience and the spotlights and what they use. But like I said, there's no absolutes, guys. This will give you an idea. Thank you, mate. Video light. Now, what's video light? Video light, what we normally refer to as a portable light source, probably in years gone by, typically a tungsten light source, like a yellow quality of light, normally round or square, normally with a cord and a brick of a battery. Okay, that's pretty much what you normally have. Now, I was doing a workshop and someone came up to me, one of my students, and said, all right, smart, I was about to say smart, that bad word. All right, Jerry, take a shot here. Prove that you can create a great shot in this location. I said, okay, let's do it. I turn the lights off. I get a video light illuminating the bride here. We take the flowers off a table, tilt the table towards the bride, and we get this image. Isn't that fun? So here we take a shot of the bride. She's lying on the bed. We've got a video light illuminating the bride here. I hop off the bed. I shoot from this angle. She does not move an inch at all, and we get this image. Isn't it amazing what a different perspective can make? I'm photographing a groom, and he was obsessed with The Godfather and Scarface and all things gangster. And this is the shot that we took here to show you the scene that we're in. So here's the poster. We took the poster off the wall. I shone a video light on him, and then we shoot the reflection and we get this in camera. That was his favorite shot. Forget about the bride, that was his favorite shot. So you see the glass frame? Yeah. So I basically photographed his reflection off the glass, off the actual frame picture, and of course the actual photograph behind the picture to get Marlon Brando and Al Pacino. So here I'm exposing for the ambience. I shone a video light on the actual bride and groom, and we capture that at 1.2, and we capture a cute little reflection of them as well. Isn't that fun? Who said wedding photography had to be boring? Who's changed their mind about wedding photography today? Thinking that it's boring and how good can it be? Quite simply, a bride with no veil is a portrait. Think about it. Doesn't matter who it is or what it is. It's fun. Was there a question? Yep.
Yes, you talked about exposure that you do at the end.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll do exposure on location. I think that'll probably be the best way of doing it. Yep. This is a shot photographing through a tunnel of people putting their glasses together. And I shot at 1.2 video light from here, and we took that shot. All right, continuous question.
You have some that are black and white, some that are color, and obviously if something's monochromatic, you might think it would look good in black and white. What do you see when you decide I'm going to make this black and white versus?
So the question was, how do I determine what goes in black and white, what doesn't? Sometimes when I want to remove the color bias and want you to just look at the moment, I'll get you to go black and white. Sometimes when there's a mix of tones where I think that are battling for my attention, again, it makes me want to go black and white, or when there's simply no color. As in the soft tones, and black and white might be the way to go. Continuous fluorescent, guys. Now fluorescent is probably the best, probably the closest thing that emulates window light, you would say. Fluorescent lighting in years gone by is very green. Now it's very white, okay, with all the environmental laws and things like that. This was taken of an R&B singer here in New York using a fluorescent light in Grand Central Station, and then we caught the flag on the train behind him as well. This was photographed outside an Armani store using the Armani sign to illuminate him, and this is how we got that shot. This was using a simple menu board, and we get the couple nice and close and we get that image. Okay, and now LED. So you may have heard the introduction earlier today, and perhaps, obviously, certainly part of the reason why I'm here is to talk about a new product that I've actually designed and Westcott have created in conjunction with myself, and that is the ice light. So the ice light, what is it? Okay, well let me show it to you, and then we can talk about it, and then we'll use it on location. So what does it look like? No, it looks like an ice light. Oh, that was a joke. Yeah. You can see how bright that is, right from where you are. Now, the difference between this light is that, quite simply, is that there's no light that exists in the market that's this portable, this bright, and cylindrical with a built-in battery. Now, you might say, well, why cylindrical? Well, we're vertical people, aren't we? Often we want a nice little strip of light and we don't normally get it. I love this because the way I actually describe it, it's like carrying window light everywhere you go. Because you can actually, if you want it sharper, you hold it vertical to the subject. If you want it softer, you bring it horizontal. If you want it softer again, then you tilt it away again. Okay? So, now of course you don't get your model to hold it, but you can if you want to have some fun with it, of course. But let me just show you a few different examples and give you an idea of how we can use this. Well, what I do here is I expose for the ambience, and then I add the light in the foreground, and that's how I get that shot. So this is the actual what I want first, then I add the light in. This is what I want first, then I add the light in. Okay, I expose for the ambience of the church lighting, and of course we add the light in. It's a combination of lights that we want. Two lights behind them, nice and bright. We darken the background, and we get that beautiful glow of light that we had with that flash, as you remember. Here I had my model just lying down on the ground, and we illuminated the girl with light through this sort of the slats there of the bench, and we get this beautiful quality of light.
What's the color temperature?
Color temperature, it's daylight. Now every LED light has a bit of a tint. And most LED lights have a bluish, greenish tint, which is quite a horrible, especially for people who shoot portraits. I love it. It's a warm tint, if it's anything. The cool thing is all these shots were taken with a daylight white balance, the daylight preset. And the cool thing is that you get what you get with the ambience. Because in years gone by, when I shot with a tungsten white balance, a tungsten light, I'd have to correct the warmth, what I see with my own two eyes, so I ruin the romance. And then I illuminate the couple, and I'll have to correct the yellow by putting it on the actual tungsten white balance. Now I retain my ambience. Perfect example is this. What I do is I shoot with a daylight white balance. I isolate the ambience of those little Christmas lights around the trees. I isolate them, and that's the beautiful tone that I get with this light. Here's using two lights, one light from the front, one light from the back. And all of a sudden we get this cool Hollywood portrait in a simple location. Here is shooting with a model just next to a piece of glass. We've got one light on her, and all of a sudden we get this beautiful abstract reflection, and we get that shot. You've all heard about butterfly lighting? Question?
So is that light full power? You turn it on, it's full power.
So it's dimmable. So that's the cool thing about it. So if you look at the wall, okay, you can just bring it down in increments. The difference about this light is that most lights, when you dim it, the color temperature changes. This remains the same. It's also flicker free, which means you can shoot video with it without seeing that flicker in the video. Couple other features that I want to talk about with this. We're also coming up with accessories, which we're really excited about. Okay, in the next couple of months we have barn doors coming, which means you can clip them on to the actual light and you can feather the light in and out. We also have a little item that you basically screw in. It's a dual connector, so you basically screw it in the light, get a second light, and it just becomes double the power, double the length. And then you can be like the Sith from Star Wars, you know, that guy with the red face. Anyway, okay, but some really cool stuff. We have a mini tripod, which means you can put on a little mini tripod and move it around. We have a tilter bracket, which is also very cool. We have gels for it. It's an amazing product because it's very versatile. But what I love about it is there's no cords, there's no brick of a battery, it's built in and it's easy to hold and it's fun. Like you bring it out to a wedding, I mean all the guys play it. No, it's a built-in lithium-ion battery. Yeah, and it'll last you over an hour on full power. So if I literally put it on full power and just left it, it'll last over an hour. The cool thing is very soon we're coming out with an extra battery pack and it'll give you an extra over 2 hours of battery life on full power as well. So. This I use for more my creative stuff. If I'm doing family portraits, perfect for it. If it's very dark, this will give me the window light that I need. It's fantastic, I like it from that kind of stuff. Question?
How long do we charge?
Charge 2.5 hours to charge it fully if it was completely dead. 2.5 hours, it'll be fully charged. Yep. Question?
So you expose for the background and you adjust the power and the distance to put the appropriate amount of light on the subject?
Exactly right. Usually. So if I have no ambience, ambience whatsoever, then yes, I can just do whatever I want with the light. But usually when I'm out in location, as the gentleman said, I will expose for the ambience first, maybe slightly underexpose it, then add my light in, and that's how I get my exposure. This one here, you can see the beautiful quality of light that gives off, and that's a softer quality of light because the lighting is this way. If you want it sharper, you'll hold it vertical. I was in London recently, as I showed you, and we walked the streets at night, and the cool thing is you can just put it in little pockets of light, and all of a sudden, you know, you get this beautiful little balance of light.
Will it damage their eyes if they look at it?
Will it damage their eyes if they look at it? I think any light, if you look at it too long. any light, it wouldn't be a problem. Wouldn't be a problem, no. It's not.
Even with the baby?
I think you'd be fine. I think you'd be fine. You've used it with infants, and they haven't.
February, yeah. I mean,
their heads don't spin around.
With the spotter lights already not gory, not bad for the rest of it.
Yeah, it's flicker free. It's not a problem.
Yeah, it's not hot at all.
How much does it weigh?
It weighs about less than 1.5 pounds, right? 1.2 pounds, 1.3 pounds. The price is $499.90. And it basically includes, of course, the light. It includes the case, which I love actually. Case is really cool. What I love about this, and this is the boy in me, is you can put it around you, and then you can just take it out like a Jedi. I don't know, it's just fun. What do you do? And there's also little Velcro things so you can put it on your belt if you wish. The cool thing is that when you're wearing it, you have it on your person, you don't feel it. Now, with the old lights that I have, with the brick of a battery and all that kind, you felt it, and it was all over the place. This is it's just portable. Quite simply, I designed a light that I would use. That's the best way I can describe it. And why I designed it is because, like I said, window light is my favorite light source, but you don't have it with you everywhere. Now I do. Now I do. Yes, it's not going to replace a flash. A flash is obviously a lot more powerful, but the softness and the versatility and the portability, the dimmability, you won't find in any other light source, I can guarantee you. Now, even during the day, you can use it, guys. So I'm not saying you can overpower the sun. No one can beat God. It's not going to happen. right? But what we can do is add a bit of a kick when it comes to an overcast situation. All of a sudden, we get this beautiful quality of light that you wouldn't have got in the first place. This here, the model's actually holding it herself. Because it's portable, you can put it in little nooks and crannies and all that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden, you've got this sort of gorgeous quality of light, because she would have been flat, it would have been in shadow, and it wouldn't have been as nice at all. Of her reflection of her eyes in one, and then her lips in the other, which might be fun. I don't know if I'll get what I'm thinking I'm going to get, but let's play. So, Lisa, do me a favour, gorgeous. Just turn your face extreme this way. Oh, actually, that's too good. That's it, tilt, and turn, stop. So, Sal, just over here, darling. Don't mind that. Let's have a look. Let's go about here. So, eyes here, darling. Chin up a bit more. See, I might get like a double, triple reflection here. Let's see. Chin up, gorgeous. Work your way to a subtle squint there, gorgeous. That was using a triple bevel reflection. This was in Sweden. Basically, obviously, my assistant was holding a light over here. Obviously, my exposure was determined by photographing for the stained glass window, then the light was in the foreground. And then this is an amazing location, but bad light. You add the beautiful light, all of a sudden you get this amazing combination. Guys, just to finish off with here, just before we walk outside, I want to just share with you a couple of things. Normally I have a lot of questions about maybe other ways of learning from me. If you've learned a lot, in 2-3 hours with me, imagine 24/7. Now you might think, what does that mean? Well, if you have access to the internet, which I'm sure most of us do, I have an educational website called the ICE Society. ICE stands for Inspire, Challenge, Educate. So if you go on there, guys, just so you know, this is a 12-month subscription that you can have. Basically, you join for 12 months and you access new information every single month. The cool thing is we're almost 5 years old, so there's now 58 chapters in existence. You only pay for the next 12, but you access all past chapters for free. All the videos that I've shown you are like a fraction of what you would normally get per month. So as an example, every month you get a video of me shooting, whether it's a wedding, portrait, boudoir, or fashion, which is normally a 20 to 30 minute video. You also have an audio commentary, which means that you can hear what I'm thinking. I talk about what I'm, all the different things behind that shoot. I show you every I've taken every month with the exposure data. As an example, every month I show you a posing and lighting technique, so you'll see the finished video about this image. I show you every month some different examples of empty environments and what I do with them, and then the exposure data behind it. You can also send me your work in and I can critique it for you. So it's anonymous, no one knows it's you, and I don't even know it's you. You show me your work and I critique it for you. We basically have the Ice Queen of the month. That's my Ice Queen, my bride. And then we have a bonus of the month. This is showing you a portrait album of a couple as well. We have a business tip of the month, whether it's a marketing tip or business tip as well. Every month I give you a challenge and you can actually win your membership back for free. So this is actually emulate your favorite movie scene as an example. The cool thing is you can access all past, present and future chapters for 12 months, which is really, really cool. Now, as a special for you guys, if you want to write the actual website down, isociety.com, it's normally $1 a day, $365. With this promo code, 115 off, you will get the special for $250, and the offer ends tomorrow at midnight. Okay, so in your own time tonight and tomorrow, you can do that if you wish. If you want to learn more from me just about what I do, about Facebook and Twitter, and to follow me, go to jerryghionis.com and there'll be all the links to about how to follow me in different ways.
Do you have a book?
So,
Wasn't that great?
For more information, please visit us online, give us a call, or stop by our New York City Superstore. You can also connect with us on the web.